Jamarion Wilcox is a Wildcat. Kentucky gets one more addition to the 2023 football recruiting class, and it's a big one. An explosive playmaker from the Atlanta suburb of Douglasville at South Paulding High School last year. Rushed for 2,059 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns. Like it, the Cats got a stud at running back. You added some thunder with Ray Davis in the transfer portal this offseason. Now you got a little bit of lightning with a big play, explosive back that if Kentucky finally does get all the way in, get elbows deep into running this outside zone, he really fits that scheme well and could be an explosive rusher for the Wildcats this fall.
First things first here, they had to get a running back in this class. They didn't have one, They had two commitments. Khalifa Keefe flipped to Tennessee, and then Caden Mormon was dropped out of the class. So they didn't have a tailback here. Trey Cornice ends up at Tulane, was a guy they looked at, I think decided late maybe to go a different direction. They were in on some other guys, but it was pretty clear that they zoned in on Jamarion Wilcox early. They had him on campus over the summer, recruited him for a long time. Sounded like it was kind of a committee approach to this recruitment. And so they put in a lot of time trying to get Wilcox in the fold. And they finally were able to do that. This was a player, Nick, who saw a pretty big rankings bump as a senior. So you got to give Kentucky credit here, I think, of evaluating and scouting him early and having a good grade on him and really going after him in this recruiting process. And there's things to like. There's a lot of things to like about Wilcox. I think the explosiveness you talked about is number one. But when I watched him tape, I don't know if it's like total straight burner. Like I don't see like Boom Williams type speed. But I do see a back that's different than the other backs Kentucky has on the roster, where he is more explosive than the other guys they have. So he's going to be able, I think, to provide some big runs. And if he puts on good weight, he has a wrestling background, which I like. You could see him becoming an RB1 who's capable of having a big workload in the SEC. And that is very intriguing when you project him forward. I think this year he's going to be a part of the rotation, but you can look ahead to 2024 and he can be RB1 for the program.
Yeah. And that's the part that strikes me as I believe it's his second highlight in that senior year huddle tape where he gets lost in just a bunch of bodies and finds his way to poke through. Like, even though he is a smaller guy in frame, like he's big in stature and he's not afraid of contact.
That is the biggest concern because there was fluctuating height and weight on Wilcox. There was one point he was listed at 5'5", another one listed him at 5'10". It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Anywhere from 180 pounds to like 205. So he's probably more like 190. And so size-wise, can he be like a Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State? Or is he not as good as Deuce Vaughn and he's just going to kind of be, lost in the wash a little bit? That's something we're going to have to wait and see him out there and see him at practice to see kind of how he fits. But I wrote in the scouting report, Jamarion Wilcox is not a true burner, but the sign he can break tackles upon contact, make defenders miss in space, and has adequate speed to provide breakaway runs. This could be just what the doctor ordered for the Kentucky offense. I think really, Nick, that contact balance is really big here. He can absorb hits and create forward gains. I think that is big for a guy like this because he does have some burst when you get him out in the open field, but you got to run through some guys. And I also think if they go to the outside zone, which they're getting more athletic on the offensive line, so to me that's a sign they're moving towards that. He's the kind of guy I think could be a good fit thanks to his burst, contact, balance, and explosiveness.
As you alluded to earlier, Kentucky was they did their due diligence in the evaluation process. Was a former Georgia Tech commit. Once he reopened his recruitment, Kentucky was all over him, and they were through multiple running backs coaches. Clemson tried to get on there. They were able to bat them off, and then
Ohio State.
Ohio State was, and even after John Settle was out, so Jay Boulware comes in and
Mhm.
doesn't skip a beat. Hugh Freeze is trying to get him in there for an official visit on that final weekend.
Yeah.
And instead, Boulware's doing it at home. So Kentucky did their part. At a school, too, mind you, his teammates, one of them is going to play for Coach Prime, the quarterback. The offensive lineman, Madden Sanker, is going to Louisville. Like, he played for a good high school football team with a lot of high-profile recruits. So feels good to – feels like you're doing something right when you're winning big-time recruiting battles against powerhouses in the Atlanta metro area.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Wiseman was I don't know if he was maybe adopted or if he just moved in with them, but I think he lived with him in high school, at least the last couple of years.
Casey Wiseman was he visited UK.
Yeah, he camped at Kentucky
them,
last summer.
Was pledged to Liberty for a while, and then ended up committing to play for Coach Prime.
Yeah, he was committed to Kansas, and then flipped on like signing day or something to Colorado. But yeah, I just think this guy ran for over 2,000 yards in 12 games as a senior, Nick, playing top-notch competition, averaged 9 yards per rush. Auburn, Clemson, Ohio State, like you mentioned, but you've really got to give Kentucky credit here, and I think he fits as kind of a zone runner, and so Kentucky's going to be a zone rushing offense. I think Wilcox kind of fits that, and then I think they're depending on him maybe as much as any true freshman to play next year.
Yes.
And so they really need him to come in and be able to be a guy that can contribute for them in the backfield. Because I think what we know about the backfield next year, Nick, was we know Ray Davis and Jaton McClain are going to be playing.
Yeah.
But Ray Davis has been injured, lost for the season at Vanderbilt in 2021 after 4 games. McClain has missed games every year, last 2 years at least.
Correct.
You need depth. And Lavelle Wright got hurt, I think, last year and missed a game. You need depth. And so Wilcox is going to be playing a role there in that backfield.
He's going to be an immediate impact playmaker. And like you said, you look around at some of the rest of the class where you have some talented guys, but all those defensive guys that are really good, they're not going to be called upon right away. Those receivers that you like, I mean, some will play, but there's some dudes that are coming back, right?
They need those guys to be good twos.
Yes, exactly. But they don't have to be like you could see Wilcox getting 18 carries, in a game.
And like Avery Stewart, I could see him potentially starting as a freshman if he comes in as just a dude because of where they're at cornerback right now.
Mm-hmm. But
I don't think they're depending on that. They're depending on Jamarion Wilcox to be a contributor in 2023.
And it's certainly exciting. The timing of it is a little bit unusual. We normally don't get 2023 commitments in.
Yeah, it's usually at an all-star game.
Yeah.
When you get these late announcements like that. This one was a unique case.
Yes.
I'll be interested to see if the story is told about why this happened. But it doesn't matter in recruiting. At the end of the day, it's about do they show up. And not everybody's showing up this week. Jaden Rashada at Florida, that big top 100 quarterback the Gators signed and went back and forth with Miami. There's NIL stuff. And so that's the current landscape we're in. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Kentucky got the signature, and Wilcox should arrive in the summer, and he should be a part of that rotation in September when Kentucky starts playing football games.
It's certainly exciting. Jamarion Wilcox, officially a Kentucky Wildcat.